Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the digiMAX Sports Network and the Grebner Show. Coach, it was a nice opportunity for your kids to bounce back last week and play a team that you were able to kind of flex your muscles and kind of impose your will a little bit when you went over and played Canton over at Ron Fanistock Field over in Canton, which has hosted some unbelievable games with Metamora over the years. And one of them was your senior year. So it was nice to go over there, though, and get a win. And we'll get into that a little bit, but still the fact that you were able to go over there and kind of bounce back and feel good about yourselves again, I thought that was a huge thing, a big key to last week's win.
Yeah, previous 2 weeks, didn't go so well. The kids kind of wanted to turn the tide as far as that was concerned. They all had a bad taste in their mouth. They had a good week of practice. Were able to get back out there, compete, have fun, be aggressive, and, come out on the winning side.
Things didn't start off so well.
No.
You fumbled the opening kickoff. We've done that before.
Yes.
And then the very first play from scrimmage, you had a pass interference. Mm-hmm. It was I think a push or a illegal contact down the field or whatever. So things didn't start off good, but I thought your kids responded really, really well. They could have put their heads down. Okay, we had 2 bad weeks, and now this has happened. But they didn't. I don't think Canton got another first down after that.
Well, they did not on that drive, but they did later on with penalties and some other things. But, no, it didn't start off the way you wanted. It's not exactly how you draw it up. But good teams find a way to overcome some of that adversity. Those were self-inflicted wounds, but those are all teaching lessons, because whether it's the opponent or whether it's ourselves, getting in the way of our goals, either way you're going to have to overcome adversity throughout the season. And so it's good to see that our kids just kept focused and kept after it.
I thought when you did get the ball back, you guys did an outstanding job of, I believe you had to go, I think it was 78 yards. Mm-hmm. You started on your own 22. You drove all the way down the field. And, I like when a guy breaks it and goes 60, 70 yards per touchdown. Those are nice. But I think that it was really important. I think it was kind of critical for your team. You guys put together, I think it was a 9-play drive on your first scoring drive. And you had to overcome some penalties. You had to overcome a little bit of adversity, and you did, and you scored. And I thought that was huge for the Metamora offense.
Yeah, we didn't put ourselves in very good position, like we said, right off the bat, but to be able to grind, we had, I believe, a couple holding penalties on that, on a little screen pass and stuff. We might have even had a drop on that series. And so, again, we just have to overcome things that we do and worry about ourselves, and everything else will take care of it. We just got to make sure that we worry about Metamora, and we can do some very good things. But the good thing was, like you said, we were able to put together a drive to keep grinding it out. We had to get some tough yards. And the thing is, with that Canton team, they're always going to play hard. They always do. They got some big guys, and it was kind of a little, I think, feeling out process in that first drive to see, what they were going to give us defensively, because they were coming in with a record of 1-4. Really, there's nothing to lose for them in that game. They got to let it all hang out, because, you just don't know. Basically their season's on the line. Yeah. And so to come in with that mentality and get up early on them and not give them a little bit of confidence is a big deal.
Actually, I think they came in 0-4. Yeah, 0-4.
Yeah, thank you.
It was 0-4. Yeah. And the thing of it is that they had 2 of the best receivers in the conference. Mm-hmm. Their quarterback was pretty solid. The running back was pretty solid. They had some bits and pieces, and they were the healthiest they'd been all year for you. And that made them a dangerous team. And I thought your kids responded really well. I thought, and we'll talk about Nick Rhodes here in a little bit later on in the show, but I thought he made some really nice passes, and your receivers, Connor Bidney and Kendrick Chaffron, did an outstanding job of getting open and then making some plays for him, because I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes, he has players make plays for him. They make great catches. Yeah, he gets the stats, but you still have to have some kids out there making plays for you, for your quarterback. And you had some guys Friday night make some plays for him.
And that was just the trust that they've had with one another. That's a lot of time that they spent together as juniors, off season as seniors. With Kendrick, you can't teach being 6'4" and going up and going over top of somebody. Connor Bidney just goes up and competes for some of those 50-50 balls, and we were able to find some mismatches there. And when it presented itself, we were able to take advantage of some of those mismatches and keep the defense on their toes a little bit.
Yeah, and you have two guys that create mismatches for defenses, and they kind of have to pick their poison. And that is I think you guys have done an outstanding job this year of kind of giving those guys a chance to take advantage of those mismatches, and you guys have exploited that, really, really well this year, and those kids have responded.
Yeah, that's all credit to one, the kids, to two, the offensive staff, Coach Stolinsky, Coach Otto, Coach Simmons. They do a great job of putting our kids in positions to succeed based on what the defense has given them. Some nights it might be, an inside slot receiver. Some nights it might be an outside receiver based on, what they're trying to do or what they're trying to take away. And if they're trying to take away the run, then we might be able to hit some guys on the outside. If, maybe they're a little bit more concerned about Kendrick or something else on the perimeter, maybe we can gash them a little bit more on the run then. So it's kind of a yin and a yang right there as far as, the outside guys and the run game and just keeping a well-balanced and well-oiled machine going.
You, I believe, took a 40-0 lead into the halftime locker room, and I thought going in you probably were very happy with what you guys had done offensively and defensively, and we'll get to the defensive side of it. But you're probably a little upset with the fact that we probably had over 100 yards of penalties the first half.
Hey, and just on basically one play, I know we had 30.
Yeah.
And so, those are definitely things that are, have been addressed. You got to keep reminding them, keep working on it in practice, and to make sure they don't, get repeated again. Like we said, there's always something to clean up. There's always something to learn from in every single game. We, for 2 weeks in a row, you got that aiding the runner penalty and stuff like that, and things like that sometimes when you're giving your effort and you're giving it your all and you want to help your teammate, sometimes you forget about stuff like that. But you want to keep making strides every single week to get better, and that's definitely something that we want to clean up, is to play a clean game.
Right, and that's tough to do. It's tough to do at any level, especially high school. And you've got some seniors on your offensive line, but you've also got some juniors, and it's tough to mesh, to get that camaraderie there. And you had two good games where they were able to kind of impose their will, but then you had two games where the other team was just as good, if not better, than you were up front, and that's tough. I think now your kids are going to be able to kind of start growing a little bit, and that sets up a week 9. I don't want to look ahead, but it does kind of set up a week 9 against a very good Dunlap team, where your team will probably be at its its best. I would assume.
Well, hopefully that we keep growing every single week. This week we got a very tough Pekin team.
They're playing for their playoff lives.
And they're playing for their playoff lives as well. And so they're not going to hold anything back. They can't hold anything back the rest of the season because there's no margin for error. And because when you play teams like that, they're dangerous. And so, we have to step it up, just one more notch and, not hopefully give them any sort of confidence. You kind of want to jump out on them early and get off to a fast lead with those guys as well. But confidence is key. Consistency is key with the offensive line. Execution, just all the way around. It's just always going to take a total team effort.
I thought defensively last week, the fact that you had Cam Nichols back was a huge, and nothing against anybody that replaced him or any of that stuff, but I thought Cam Nichols is kind of that cog in your defense that really kind of makes your defense go. And I thought he did an outstanding job. I think you said he only had around 5 or 6 tackles, but things seemed to just be a little bit better.
when you can just establish a little level of consistency as far as who's out there. Some guys aren't always in their natural position simply because of injuries and whatnot, and so you're not as cohesive as you once were. But getting him back out there was good. You never want to see anybody have to sit out any games due to injury or anything like that. But it's important. You know, you got Marshall, who's been a great vocal leader, calling the defense, making sure guys are in the right spot. You know, Cam's always been kind of a quiet guy, doesn't say a whole lot, just goes out and does his job, and we've got a lot of guys like that. But to have everybody available is always a goal of ours. You know, unfortunately, in football and in sports in general, that's not always going to be the case. But it's always nice to have another guy back and be able to utilize them and their talents out on the field.
I think, you know, this year, and maybe it just stands out more this year for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, but you've sustained some injuries. Your son, Avery's out for another 2 or 3 weeks.
We'll see. Who knows?
Gavin O'Loughlin is out with an injury. And so you've had others.
Mark
Fredericks is out also. Yes, that's true. And those on the defensive side, you've been able to plug and play, put other guys in, and they've done a pretty good job. I thought AJ Stone came in and did a really good job in place of O'Loughlin.
He did. You know, AJ did a really good job. Cranford, he's been, you know, having to see more time out there in the secondary. Eden Cote did really good. You know, he hadn't seen any reps there in the secondary until that Canton game. As far as game reps,
2 of the best receivers in the conference,
and he did really well. And so, you know, we're proud of those guys for stepping up, and that's what practice is for, is to continually get better, because you never know when your number is going to be called. And so, just be ready to go, keep working every day, stick to it, and you know, good things are going to, you know, come your way.
And unfortunately, injuries are part of the game of football. But I think that's a huge thing. You hear about teams, you know, well, we're missing this guy, we're missing that guy. And there are players that, boy, you lose him and there's a step back. But fortunately, we've been injured in places where we've had some kids that can step up, and we've been a little bit deep. You know, you're not going to be able to sustain a whole lot of injuries, but, you know, you've always got to be able to have somebody step up. And I think you guys have done an outstanding job this year, because that was seamless last Friday.
You know, and you know, it's always nice to have, you know, a lot of playing time, you know, at the JV level too, to give them game experience. So, you know, that way some of those juniors who weren't going to see any playing time at the varsity level, you know, that don't miss a game or miss a whole year of experience out there and stuff like that. And so to get those guys continually playing game experience, you know, just only helps as they grow into upperclassmen.
You know, and like I said, we'll talk about Nick Rhodes. I thought the other half of that quarterback duo, Stephen Petrie, who's one of your starting safeties, who does an outstanding job back there, comes in a lot of time on short yardage when we need, you know, he's probably a little bit better runner than Nick. He came in and he handled the offense, and he's done that all year, and we probably don't say enough about him this year so far. But I think when he's come in, I think I don't know, what's he have, maybe 20 carries and about 10 touchdowns?
Well, it seems like 20 carries. I think he only has probably about 5 on the year, because they're all 2-point conversions.
They're all 2-point conversions.
You know, it seems like for the most part. But no, Nick does a really good job running. Steven does a really good job running. They're both different types of runners. They just have a little bit different style, and that's okay. Everybody has their own style, just like all of our running backs have different styles as well. And there's just a little bit of idiosyncrasies between the two. You know, one might be a little bit more slippery than the other. One might be a little bit more downhill. But either way, they both do a really good job. And, you know, those 2-point conversions are a big deal. And you know, Steven's kind of found a little knack for finding creases and getting in the end zone.
Yeah, he's done an outstanding job of that. The other thing, too, is the thing about last Friday night's game is you were able to get a lot of kids into the game. And to me, that is so vital. And not just, you know, mop-up time at the end. They got to play. I think Evan Cow had about a 65-yard touchdown run. And after that, you completely emptied the bench. And I thought that was just huge for your kids.
Now, everybody puts in so much time throughout the program, from freshmen to seniors, and to be able to reward some players that aren't able to get out there as much as they would like. Everybody would love to continuously be out there. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and so whenever we are able to get as many kids on the field as we can, we try and do our best in order to do that. Because it's been since LaSalle, Peru, when we've been able to get a lot of kids playing time. You have a guy like Caden Berger who just continuously works and works and works.
Nice catch Friday.
Every single week. He had 2 nice catches. He had one on a little out. He had the one nice fade.
Over the shoulder catch.
Over the shoulder is a great thrown ball. And so to reward guys like that for putting in the time, putting the effort, he's a senior. He's given 4 years to Metamora football. The whole team's happy for him.
Yeah.
He's happy, but it's moments like that make it all worthwhile, that kind of builds the team camaraderie, and to get all those guys on the field, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, I thought so too. Those are that is invaluable on how much that helps your team, even for preparing for next year. But to see how happy those seniors are when they're contributing, and those younger kids see that and they know that it's worth it.
Yeah,
that's huge. You've got a tough game coming up with Pekin. We've touched on it a little bit about how they're playing. This is their first round of the playoffs. This coming Friday, they're 1-4. They've got to win out to have a chance to make the playoffs. They've played probably, arguably, the toughest schedule in the conference.
I mean, they've been front loaded. That's for sure. When you play Belleville East, you play Rolling Meadows. They've already played Dunlap, Washington, Morton.
And now us.
And you're sitting there thinking, man, they've gone through a gauntlet right there at the beginning. And so they are a tough, battle-tested team that's going to come in hungry. And we're going to have to match their intensity because they're fighting for those playoffs.
Yeah.
And, when you get a team that's down a little bit, that's just looking for that little bit of life, you don't want to give them any. And like we said earlier, you just want to come out of the gate strong.
They made it to the quarters last year. I think that's their most successful team ever. So they know how to win.
Yeah.
And they don't have the Sprecher and the Taylors and the quarterback Scotty Jordan.
Yep, and Benassi.
They don't have those guys, but they still have some guys that can hurt you if you let them get some momentum.
And that's one thing. They got some guys that are a little bit younger. Didn't play as much last year because they had such an experienced team, but they're still big up front on both sides of the ball.
Oh, yeah.
They still have talent on the perimeter and in the backfield, and so they're always going to be a tough test for you. And it's just one of those things where, like we said, we have to make sure that we impose our will and we're physical as well.
Talk a little bit about some of your underclass teams. We haven't had a chance to really talk a whole lot about your freshman and your JV team, but your freshman team, I believe they're 2-3.
Correct.
They're 2-3. They've been in every ballgame, and they've played a lot of sophomore teams. I mean, it's freshman, sophomore. You're strictly freshman.
Correct.
With a lot of kids that are playing their 5th game of the year. That's a pretty talented team, and I think at some point that light's going to come on. It may not be this week, it may not be next week, but at some point, if they stick with it, it's going to come on.
Yeah. And I know every one of those guys at the freshman level and throughout the program, they're competitors. They want to be successful. They want to win. But the one thing about freshman football is there's a lot of those guys that are putting on helmets and shoulder pads for the first time ever. It seems like 50% never played JFL or anything like that. And so, when you look at that, they're 5 games into their football career. And so there's a big learning curve, and sometimes they are going against guys that have a year and a half of experience or an entire JFL career worth of experience. And so, sometimes there's just some growing pains. Sometimes that just comes with confidence and knowing exactly what to do. And so I think those guys are doing a good job. They, like you said, they've been in every single game. The Washington game kind kind of came down to the wire.
It was overtime.
Yeah, and then
Morton. They scored a touchdown late to make it a 2-touchdown game.
Back and forth game.
They lost to Canton by less than one touchdown.
Yep. And so and those guys had some big boys with some experienced guys. And so, I know that sometimes they get down on themselves because,
they want to win.
Yeah, everybody does. But the good thing is you keep seeing them make strides week in and week out, and you get to see their confidence grow. And with confidence comes, their physicality, and they just start, working and gelling together as a team.
And I think Kurt Ryan and his coaching staff have done a really good job of making sure that those kids that they realize that yes, it's important to win. It's important to play close games or to improve each week. Mm-hmm. But I think he's done a really good job of letting them know that, okay, you lost, but you still did well. Mm-hmm. Hit the weight rooms. You got to hit the weight room in the off season. And those games that they're losing by a touchdown will probably be a different story next year.
And that's one thing, with freshman football. It's not it doesn't tell the whole entire story of how things are going to turn out. You look back at, way back when I was a freshman, 5-4 is what our record was, and the team just continued to work, mm-hmm. and they continued to push each other in the off season, and then compete and just continue to grow together, and and then good things happen. And so, your freshman year and the record there doesn't necessarily tell what the future is going to hold. It's not going to be indicative of how things are going to go in the future, and so you just got to stay in it. But it's not going to come easy. It's going to come through a lot of effort. It's going to come through a lot of hard work, and so we're looking forward to seeing what that freshman class does.
And the other thing too that I think you got to keep an eye on is just to make sure those kids are still having fun.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're having fun, mm-hmm. So that's been big. And the other thing too is I think your JV team has just been phenomenal. They had the little hiccup against Washington. Most teams are going to have mm-hmm. hiccups against Washington, but man, I from the first game of the year when they went up and played Sterling and won, they had a little bit of a setback against LaSalle Peru. Then they played Washington. But then that down 17-6, and with 9 minutes and 42 seconds to go in the game and against Morton, and they came back and won 18-17. I mean, that was phenomenal.
That was a huge game. It was nice to see all the kids get excited on the sideline, especially when we were just able to run that final clock out and being able to get in victory formation and take that knee. That's always fun. And then finally, this past week against Canton, it was another good game. Beautiful night for football, both those nights. And so, to see those guys have success, there's a lot of pieces there. You see a lot of guys putting in hard work and all that coming to fruition out on those Monday night games. And so, we're happy for the success that those guys have been having.
I think Steve Kieswetter, the head coach, and by the way, Steve Kieswetter and Ryan Otto just do a phenomenal mm-hmm. job at that JV.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
You couldn't ask for a better staff there.
No. And the amount of kids, they get everybody in the game and they rotate them in and out. And, it's just amazing. I know you do play a few juniors that, kids that don't get to play on Monday or on Friday nights, they're getting to play on Monday, which is good. You don't play a lot of them because you play a lot of sophomores. I think you played 4, maybe 5 juniors this past week. Most teams are playing a lot more than that. And those are kids that don't play very much, if at all, on Fridays. But the two kids that I've really noticed is your defensive end, number 89.
Sam Barbarinas?
Yes, him and Jaden Lambert. Those two, they're pretty good ball players for you.
Yeah, those two have come a long way. It's going to be exciting to see what they do in the future. Getting in the weight room and letting their body mature. Monday night against Canton, it just seemed like it was, all right, is it going to be Jaden left or Jaden right this time? Because it was just one or the other. And Barbarinas was making some really good plays. He just had a really good feel. And, he's tall, he's rangy. I think he wants to put a little bit of weight on and get in that weight room and get a little bit stronger. When he does that, he can be a force to be reckoned with. But you got guys even like Will Mishler at outside linebacker. That's another guy that moved positions this summer, and he's just continually taking strides week in and week out, and is developing a really good feel. And so, there's a lot of guys just like that too. You could sit here and name off a whole bunch, but that team's really starting to gel.
It's a lot of fun watching the Monday night football games. I just enjoy watching it. How many kids you keep rotating in and out. Most teams don't empty the bench until the fourth quarter. You guys are rotating guys in the first quarter. It's just amazing to me, how many guys you're able to get in on the games on Mondays, and I think that's part of the reason why your football program is really there's sustainability there.
And kids, that they all know that they have a chance to play. It's game night. We got to get they get a chance to get out there and show what they can do. They put in that hard work. Coach Kieswetter, Coach Otto, they do a great job of getting kids in and rewarding them for that hard work as much as they possibly can. Like I said earlier, it's never going to be perfect. I wish it was, but to get as many guys playing experience as possible is always our goal.
While we take a timeout, when we come back, we'll name the MTCO digiMAX Sports Player of the Game. Actually, it's the Germantown Grille Player of the Game.
Okay.
Central Illinois, you asked for it and we listened. Germantown Grille is growing to meet customer demand, adding more dining space and a private gaming area featuring games powered by Gold Rush, the gold standard in video gaming. And Germantown Grille still has all the food and spirits that keep our customers coming back. Stop by to check out our daily specials. The game's on at Germantown Grille, where Central Illinois loves to eat. Open 7 days a week, just off Route 116.
Welcome back to the Jared Grebner Show, Coach. The kid we named the player that we named is the Germantown Grille Player of the Game was Nick Rhodes. I thought Nick Rhodes Friday night was just outstanding he made play after play, made pass after pass, and he has just kind of cemented himself as one of your core players now. And you're almost, I don't want to say you're expecting it, but you're not surprised when he has these good games anymore.
No, and that's how it should be for all seniors. You shouldn't be surprised after being 4 years in the program and stuff like that. And as you've seen Nick grow and throughout his career, this is what you expect from him as a senior. And we didn't expect anything less. We knew what he was able to do. And so you're nice to see all that hard work pay off. He had on that first drive, he had some big key runs to put us right down by the goal line. Jadon ended up scoring that one, I believe, off the top of my head. He had it was a tough run too, because the guy got his face mask there, and he got it in.
Well, he had a clear shot
down to one.
He had a clear shot to get a sack, and Nick just kind of
spun out of that.
Yeah, strong with the ball.
And it was just a player making a play.
Yeah,
and those are things that you'd like to say you work on it in practice, but you just don't always work on it.
No, you can't work on that.
When plays break down. And so to see him have that success is good. And, we've talked about some of the weapons he's had on the outside. That night, had some great plays throwing it to Kendrick, some great ones throwing it to Connor Bidney as well. And so he's finding a way to involve others. It's nice seeing him take more of a leadership role as well. I think he's starting to feel more comfortable.
Right.
And that comes with it, being a first-time starter at the varsity level.
Right.
Things just happen a little bit faster, and and when you start to feel a little bit more comfortable, you get a little more confident, and the game starts to slow down. And I think that's happening for him, and I think it's happening a little bit for this group. They're just feeling more comfortable and more cohesive with one another.
I had the privilege of doing the chains last year, the Southmore games on Monday night, and he came down and played, and he was phenomenal. He was easily the best quarterback every game that we saw him play last year, all 9 of those games. He was easily the best quarterback on the field, no matter who we played. And, the question then became, well, Friday nights, would the lights be too bright? Definitely not too bright for him.
Not at all.
Not at all. He has responded incredibly well, and that has to make you feel really happy that he's worked so hard, and then have all this pay off. You guys, your coaching staff has to be commended for that too, because that he had to have some leadership in there somewhere, and at a bunch of different levels, and they did, and now you've got this quarterback that he's playing awfully well.
He is. He's playing really well. Tribute to him and what he does in the off season. Too, it's a tribute to our offensive staff. It's not like you reworked the entire offense or anything like that, but he is a different quarterback than Caden was last year.
Oh yeah, altogether.
And so they tweak some things, knowing that what Nick's strengths would be compared to what Caden's were last year, and so utilizing him in the best way for our team was very important. It's always evolving, about what you can do, and maybe the opponent, because of the opponent we play. But there's always going to be little tweaks that you play with here and there. But we're all starting to settle down. He's starting to settle in. We all have a really good feel for what one another can do, and things are starting to fall in place. And hopefully, we can keep that train moving down the tracks.
Homecoming week, and that's always a little bit of a distraction. Everybody says, "Oh, it's a big distraction." Luckily, we've done pretty well over the years on homecoming, and look forward to a really exciting ball game Friday night at Malone.
It'll be good.
It'll be, I'm sure, a nice big crowd.
And we have some, we got the Hall of Famers being inducted. We have out of that crew, some of the individuals are football players with, Jamie Dishroom and Ricky Alvis, and then you got the 99 and 2000 teams being inducted as well. And so
got a coach.
Yep, we've got Coach Kurt Ryan. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Boy, I would have heard about that one.
yeah.
But
well deserved. All those guys, everybody's
all
well deserved.
Well deserved.
Great class this
Correct.
year.
And so there's going to be a lot of guys with the knowledge of football, and there's going to be a lot of past players and a lot of history in the stands up there for this game on Friday. And so it's going to be time for this team to start making their mark and the history of Metamora football in some way, shape, or form. Everybody's kind of got a page. Kelly Willard wrote that book, and everybody's kind of got their own chapter, and we still have a lot of pages to write.
Yeah.
And so
a lot of chapters left to write.
Yes. And so hopefully that on Friday we can make this a really good chapter and write a good story and have a good showing for a lot of those football players up in the stands.
One other guy you probably can't forget about, but probably one of the best defensive players to ever play at Metamora.
Brad Wood. Boy, there's another, and that just goes to show you the success that Metamora football's had over the years. You get all these guys going into the Hall of Fame, and Jamie and Ricky Alvis are a little bit closer to my age. Brad was a little bit older, and you have the 99 2000 teams, and then I'm coached by Coach Kurt, and so that's a lot of football guys. That's a lot of sweat, a lot of hard work, a lot of people that put in a lot of time in Metamora football and to help make it what it is today.
And I still think that Brad Wood could probably play today.
Put it this way, I do not want to line up against him.
You also have two volleyball teams, I believe the 93 and the 94
Correct.
team going in, along with Brad Todden, cross country.
Yes.
So that's a really good class. Coach, good luck Friday night. We'll see you at Malone Field.
All right, thank you.